Welcome, everybody, to the 40th weekly episode of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And you spent a lot of money this week.
I did. I figured let's find a way to spend money even when there's not actual in-person events.
So everyone else was running around doing there were a bunch of cons this week, and there were a bunch of various signings and things and appearances and cons, and you were blowing your money on eBay.
Yeah. For some reason, I went down a rabbit hole of just like looking at Macaulay Culkin autographs that were still available from the private. And as I think people know if they watch my reports, there's like a handful of things I collect more frequently than others. And like 11 by 17, 12 by 18 mini posters. That's kind of my jam. I do a lot of those. And most of the sources that still had the stuff from that signing were all sold out of those, except for this one seller on eBay that had the witness stickered ones left.
So were you getting the sense that like these might dry up and then not be able to be acquired in the future, so you just panic and press the button?
Basically, I mean, they also set one of those like seller offers, so it was like $50 off the sticker price, so that was nice. But yeah, I figured like, even though this chiller is probably not going to work out for me with all my other commitments, if I want to start getting the other kids, maybe Stern, if he ever does something, and I want to start building with Macaulay Culkin already on the piece, because I don't know if he's doing anything else. That was a bold prediction I made that he would, but I'm starting to have my doubts, perhaps. So
yeah, you're not actually putting any faith in your own bold prediction.
No, I mean, if you actually have faith in a bold prediction, I don't think it's bold enough.
I guess. I mean, but you wouldn't send that away to Joe Pesci I think he's going to do another private. You wouldn't send that away?
Possibly. I would have said 100% no in the future. I mean, in the past, I would have totally slammed the door, but I don't know. I'm starting to warm up a little bit to the mail away signings. I'm actually considering grabbing something from the Shia LaBeouf signing, just to complete my combo.
So what's funny is this is actually a perfect segue to a pretty incredible piece of news that rocked the con world. I actually think it should have been on the agenda for last week and we just missed it somehow. But Mr. T is doing his first public signing and his first publicized private signing in over 30 years. At the Dallas Fan Expo. And I say it's a great segue because I currently have a tab open for Twin Cities Comics where I'm kind of wrestling with mailing away a poster for Mr. T.
I like the word you used there. What kind of poster is it?
It's a WrestleMania 1 original poster that's already signed by Hulk Hogan. If you know the WrestleMania 1 poster, it's a black background with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T on it, and that's it. So to get those two on there, and Hulk already wrote all kinds of inscriptions and stuff on there. So to get T on there with some inscriptions, because the only way to get inscriptions is to do the mail away. That's the thing they do. These kind of larger companies who control big signings like this, when they have someone do a public appearance, you can't get any quotes or character names or whatever at those tables unless you really are skilled or beg or whatever. But it's not officially offered. But if you mail them away, you can get them at a significant premium.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense, that even if someone's there in person, that you could still need to go through them for the autograph because you want it done a certain way.
No, listen, when you're able to secure a name like Mr. T, and make no mistake, Mr. T, I think he's one of those names that, truthfully, if he had been doing cons for the past 20 years, which he should have been, because why the heck not, no one would, he would be whatever, like your average chiller guest. Like he should be your average chiller guest level. But because he's never done anything, he's kind of been built up into this epic appearance with this outrageous price tag attached to it. And I'm not really sure how this signing was done through Official Picks. Official Picks, they used to have the contract for all the Star Wars people, and they used to work with Star Wars Celebration before SWAU took over that. But Official Picks is a very, very big company, so no one really knows how they got Mr. T to do it this time around, because everyone who knows that Mr. T historically has been offered a ton of cash and has never, ever agreed to do anything. and now he's like making videos for his appearance, and he's going all in. Oh, and so of course they're advertising this as a one and done appearance. What do you think? Do you think we're dealing with a one and done appearance, or is this going to be another, song and dance?
I see no reason why it would be a one and done appearance unless he has just the absolute worst time and he just needed, a certain amount of money just to cover some sort of a gambling loss or big purchase or something. Maybe he was on eBay looking at Macaulay Culkin autographs and he too needs to, get a little extra scratch.
But the one thing that makes me a little squirrely is that it's Official Picks who's bringing him out. It's not SWAU. It's not Celebrity Authentics. It's one of those companies who's known for booking multiple appearances at once. Official Picks doesn't really have an in. They don't book for the other big shows. I guess they just book. I haven't really been paying too much attention to it, but I believe they book for Fan Expo, and that's it. So unless he goes on a Fan Expo run, which they absolutely could do, they could do a thing where they won't announce them all. They'll announce one, and then as enough time passes, they'll announce some of the others. But maybe another Fan Expo is possible. But
it's not time for bold predictions yet. But I'm going to make one. I could see him being at Philly Fan Expo next year. We've discussed on here how the Philly Wizard Worlds and then the Philly Fan Expos were always sort of like the ugly stepsisters of the real Fan Expos, where that show always got the trash, basically. And they've separated themselves, and we'll get into a little bit more in our next topic of how they've separated themselves. But I think that would make sense. I think you're not going to you literally can't announce anything now for the next Philly show because they don't even have a date, I don't believe, announced. Like you can't announce it. So I think there's an absence of announcements because that's how they're going to do it. He's going to go on a little bit of a Fan Expo run, and it just doesn't make sense. If you're willing to do this one and the math makes sense, all these things make sense, why would you stop there? It doesn't make any sense to me. But
I mean, all said and done, between the public appearance and the private signings, I believe the number he's going to get is close to or at seven figures. So, if he needs $1 million, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough when you're dealing with that dollar amount, because it's really a ton of money involved here. A lot of heavy hitters who have big money invested are involved here. There are lots of companies doing signings with him.
I don't think T has done a damn thing of notoriety in 40 years. Like, I don't think he even crossed into the 90s in any real way. I'm sure there's straight to video movies he did that were that no one's ever really seen, but he didn't do anything big since the 80s, the mid 80s.
Yeah, I mean, you got the A-Team was massive, and it's hard because I was a little kid when the A-Team was on, and I really wasn't. I watched some of it, sorta, but I wasn't really into the A-Team. But you couldn't avoid it. You couldn't avoid it really because it was so omnipresent. He was a huge star from the A-Team.
I'm well aware of his star power. It's just everything he did kind of just missed me by a couple of years. The A-Team was just never. I wasn't watching it when it was live. I don't even think I was alive when it was live. And somehow it was never on a Nick at Night or any of those channels where I would consume my reruns. So I've seen it in passing, but never in any real way. WrestleMania 1, honestly, as a kid, was probably one of the tapes I would rent the least of all the first 5 or 6 WrestleManias. It never seemed, it seemed the oldest, the dimmest. It never really.
Let's be honest. Rewatch value of that show is very low. It's not a good show.
I wasn't consuming, WrestleMania 1 with the regularity that I was some classics like WrestleMania 9.
Literally the worst one.
That is one of my favorites, though. But so I'm not.
To be fair,
I'm not
Rocky
as excited as some people.
Rocky 3
Rocky 3 is great. Yeah.
Incredible. And here's where it gets tricky for me: is that the print for Rocky, the Rocky, because when I met Apollo Creed, right, I got him to sign a Rocky 3 print, and now he's dead. And so now, do I get that Mr. T on that, and then also just get Hulk and Sly at some point?
Listen, I wasn't aware you had it. Well, first of all, the way you said that, it kind of made it sound like having him sign your print is what sort of brought on his death. I'm wondering here if your print is cursed.
Well, my point is that I already have, for the more or less the hardest person to get now that he's dead on that print.
Yes.
He was the easiest for the longest time, right? Because he would do cons, but now he's the hardest person to get. And Hulk, you can get Hulk. It's not hard. Sly, if you wait, you can get Sly. He does the signings, And
honestly,
and
I think you have to.
And now with T, I never did. I got the print on a whim because I remember him when I saw him at Monster Mania that time. I thought the price was a little bit low, so I'm like, screw it, I'll just get it. And then, I regretted it because T was always unavailable, and I wasn't going to drop the big money on Sly, and I had other things for Hogan that would take precedence. But now that T has been attained or is attainable,
and you kind of cleared your deck on Hogan. You got most of the other stuff out of the way, so now,
right? I did. I got
a new pile.
The Hogan stuff. It was sick when I got done because I look around, I'm like, was that the right decision? But that's a conversation for a different day. But now, it does open the possibility to me getting T on that poster.
What
but
size is the print?
11 by 17.
Ooh, you're speaking my language now. You got to do it.
It's tough because paying $300 and whatever dollars for him to write 3 letters is in capital letter. It's not like there's a signature. It's Mr. T. That's it. There's no.
Listen, if you're lucky, he might short sig those 3 letters.
He might just hit a T.
Yeah, he might just get a T.
So it does give me pause on that front because there's, as from my completionist compulsive side, it's intriguing. From my aesthetic side, it's pretty useless because I know T will give a crappy autograph. Hulk will give a great one because he does. And Sly, you can't get a good autograph out of him anymore, basically. Because when he does his signings now, that it's built into the contract, he won't sign his full name. It's really, we exist in a deranged hobby. Honestly.
Listen, let's be real. I think his short signature still looks great. It's just, it's not.
No, but in my head,
he keeps going.
No, in my head, it would look messed up because he used to do the long sigs, with frequency, and now he doesn't. So, are you getting T? What are you doing? You're not going to Dallas, so what's the plan? Are you gonna wait? You're gonna wait and hope that he does a little more local show? Or are you gonna send something in?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was saying. He's not really on a personal level. He's not as big as he is for most of the hobby. I acknowledge his magnitude, but I'm not flying to Dallas. And I have a WrestleMania 1 print, 12 by 18 with Hulk and other people on it, but I'm not mailing that for $300. I don't think. I mean, I'll think about it, but I don't think I'm going to. And I'm not gonna. I don't have Apollo, so I'm not gonna start a Rocky 3 print now. So I think I'm gonna sit it out. If he comes somewhere in person, I'll get him on the WrestleMania 1, but. The same way I haven't gotten LT on any WrestleMania 11 stuff. I'll just punt at this point.
So in a way, Carl Weathers' passing has also kind of guided your decision a little bit.
Yeah, actually, Carl dying saved me a lot of money.
So there you go. So speaking of Fan Expo Philly, because you had mentioned it, they added a bunch of big names. I mean, not names that we personally need, but certainly names that will draw lots of bodies to Philly. So they added John Carpenter, they added Christopher Lloyd, and they added Parker Posey. You know what's funny? We never put this into the show notes. I'm not sure if we should talk about it this week or not. Should we talk about the John Carpenter situation that I had last week?
I think we save that for next week. I think that's a whole topic.
It's a whole topic. All right, so we'll punt on that. Yeah, you did just type an important point here. John Rhys Davies was also added to Fan Expo Philly, which is really another name that I punted on. John Rhys Davies when he was at Rhode Island a couple of years ago, just because I was spending too much money at that show, and his line. He was in the that room with all of the smaller guests inexplicably, so his line was just impossible to navigate. It was a Byzantine nightmare. So I didn't even. I took one look at it, couldn't even figure out how to get onto the line because it was so mishmash, and there were people. That room is really terrifying to be in. And I can navigate most public spaces. I'm not going to be dramatic about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. He's wiggly away through that room. I felt personally in danger being in that room, and just you can't move, and there's nowhere to go, and people just smell, and they're disgusting, and they're around you, and you're being touched from every angle, and people screaming.
It sounds like a Diddy party.
It was that room at Rhode Island. I know we touched on it when we talked about Rhode Island last time, but it's dangerous. It's genuinely a dangerous place. I'll be honest, going in that room.
With a lot of the stuff at Rhode Island, like when you see names announced, there's a level of thought in my mind that I will always think, and maybe I'm alone in this. Is this going to be an ice name, or is this going to be a
No, we talk about it when the names are announced.
It's like I'm wondering, like even with the whatchamacallit, with the Once Upon a Time people that I'm thinking about starting an autograph project on. Like, are they going to be in that awful room? Probably.
They probably will be because yeah. And that room, it just and obviously we'll talk about this more when the show comes up closer and when it happens. But I genuinely despise that room. I think it's genuinely dangerous. It's that con is very frustrating for me because they always book a ton of great guests, but it's my least favorite space to navigate by far. There's no other con other than like the old Heroes and Villains cons back in the day where I felt genuinely in danger walking on the show floor. Because I mean, again, I'm not trying to be like a baby about this stuff. And most people, when they say I'm genuinely in danger, they're like, just being dramatic. You can't move, and you couldn't get out if there was a problem, if there was like an incident, if there was a whatever, fire or someone, with a weapon, you can't get out. You're stuck. And that's one of the few things that I really.
You just got to jump behind the biggest fan you can find at that point.
Yeah, you find the biggest tub of lard and hide behind them and use a human shield. But
yeah, it's a bad show when the highlight is getting a stand on literally a hockey rink in like November, whatever month it is, and that's the highlight. I'm standing on the ice and I'm freezing, but
yeah. It's true.
It's always stacked and will be there. But
yep, of course.
Speaking of Rhode Island,
yep,
I did.
Yeah,
they added Charlie Cox and Vince D'Onofrio and the girl's name,
Deborah Ann Woll.
Deborah Ann Woll. There we go. They are doing a Daredevil reunion, and here's the deal: I've met Charlie. I met Vince. I'm not the biggest Marvel guy, but honestly, the Daredevil's original run on Netflix is probably the closest I've been to being like super like into something Marvel. Like I was excited for the new seasons. I would consume them fast. They were always great. And I thought to myself with this announcement, I'm like, hey, maybe I'll get some figures done. Maybe I'll start like a big print. And I ended up.
You started making plans. Plans.
Yeah, I was on eBay. I'm looking at different items. And then I clicked on Charlie's pricing, and this is where he's at. An 8x10 is $125. It's $150 for a premium, $200 for large props, which I'm assuming literally is just large props. I would think figures, posters would all be under the $150 for the premium. A character name, if you want more than the lovely CC type autograph that he gives, or at least that's what I got for him on the street, that's $50.
I've seen his con graphs. That's what he does. That he doesn't do anything special for the con.
His quote is 100, which I'm not sure if you can. Something tells me you're not dropping a 12-word quote on him for $100. That's probably like the simple, 4 to 6 word quotes. And then a pro photo is $135. So basically, at his cheapest, he is a $260 combo, which I would not have. You would have asked me what he should be right now, even with the Disney Plus reboot. I would not have said that much. It's Marvel, it's Disney. I get it. Maybe it's fair in a weird way. I don't know. I was kind of taken aback by it. How do you feel?
So, well, here's the question: I think it's ridiculously high for someone who I don't really see as a star. He's a minor star. Daredevil, at the end of the day, was a moderate hit. It was not a massive hit. It was a moderate hit.
Yeah, if it was a massive hit, it would have kept going.
And, well, no. I mean, part of the issue was the whole Netflix Marvel contract got crazy when with the Marvel Disney thing. But it was complicated. But it was a moderate hit. Clearly they have some faith in the property because they brought it back. That in and of itself is, significant. It's just so high. It's just so high for someone who has nothing else to their name.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything else. It's funny. I look at that price and I go, easy pass. Easy pass. It's not. I'm not even tempted a little at that price.
Yeah. I even thought, maybe I'll do the group up with the cast, but I mean, that's not happening. I'll just get Deborah Ann and call it a day with that. Is there a chance I'll impulse buy? Maybe my total cost is not as high as I expected it to be, perhaps. But I mean, I can't imagine I pull the trigger on an autograph. I think I'll be passing all across the board.
Which is, it's funny because but when the announcement was made, you're like, I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm like, oh, look at you. And that went down very quickly. The pricing is nuts. What we were talking about, this week leading up to when we were kind of giving our background notes for the show, is whether you think he'll draw at that price. So this is the question, if these guys can draw at a price, that's where they base their pricing, does he draw at this price?
I think he will. I think he absolutely will because, I mean, again, it's a Marvel property on Disney Plus that I imagine is going to make a much bigger splash given the pond it exists in than it did before with, like you said, contracts and different problems that maybe derailed it a little bit. I think this is simply going to be where he's at. I think people are going to get him. I mean, all the people that touch Marvel or Star Wars or all those properties get inflated. And for the most part, life goes on.
There's inflated, and then there's this. It's just very high. It's very, very high. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio is a bigger star than Charlie Cox. I don't think that's a question, is it?
No.
And Vince what's D'Onofrio charging? Did you look or no?
I'm bringing it up right now.
Let's see, because I mean, they sort by. So Vincent D'Onofrio, his photo op is 110, and an 8x10 autograph is 80, and a premium autograph is 100. He's significantly cheaper than Charlie. Significantly.
I could see Charlie being more than him just in terms of, I mean, I think something like this, the pricing is literally based on the whole reunion. Like the graphic, they're not even showing Full Metal Jacket or anything else. They're showing Daredevil. So on a Daredevil level, he's Daredevil. So I think there's probably more excitement to meet the actual title character, the hero. But
is there Daredevil without Kingpin? I mean, he is the only meaningful villain that Daredevil has. No.
Yeah, I guess I'll die on that hill that he should be a little more than D'Onofrio given the reunion. I don't think he should be that much more than D'Onofrio. I think it's a little.
My point is that. I think this pricing is going to be upsetting to people. They're really, to me, it's very ballsy to go that high on a name like Charlie Cox. I don't see Charlie Cox setting the world on fire at these shows. I think they're really hoping that this reboot is going to, carry the weight there. Look, maybe it's more popular than I think it is. I don't personally know a single person who's watching the reboot. But I'm not a really good barometer for that kind of stuff because I'm not really watching any of the Marvel stuff, and the people who I, talk TV with don't really either. But when something breaks through, like those people who don't really watch Marvel or Star Wars stuff, who I know still watch The Mandalorian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it kind of broke through and became sort of more than its property. I don't think Daredevil is at that level by a long shot. So I don't know. We'll see. Look, I think he'll have lines, but I think the pricing is too high, and I am one to really never complain about pricing like that for premium guests, and I was taken aback. I think the part that really was crazy is that the character name is $50. Everyone at cons at the table, pretty much everyone adds character names for free.
Yeah, that bothers me. If I could spend $150, get a figure done, character name, all done up in paint, maybe I suck it up. But it's like, I don't just want a CC for $150, and I'm not paying $200. And
it's $200, yeah, $200 for.
I'm saying, usually in today's climate, you have to decide if you want the quote. Usually, I decide no. You will typically decide yes. that's usually that right there is your fork in the road. Do I want to quote? Do I not want to quote? Signature character name, that's usually just sort of a given with the base price or the base
Sure,
premium
absolutely.
price.
I mean, look at the last Rhode Island show. Ernie Hudson had a whole menu of quotes available. We talked about it in my report, and different quotes with different tiered pricing. And one of the things his agent said was, "Nah, character name's free."
That's reasonable. And just to complete the reunion here, Deborah Ann Wool, 58 by 10, 70 premium, 75 pro op, selfie at guest discretion, which she will 1,000% do because she's not going to do that great a business. But those prices are pretty good. And honestly, I would argue her second credit's True Blood. She was much bigger in True Blood than Charlie was in Boardwalk Empire, which is his second credit. He was,
right.
That was a character in Boardwalk for a moment that he had a little bit of like, magnitude, but
it was a great character. It was great. I mean, I'm not taking that away. It was a great character and stuff, but I mean, Deborah Ann Wool is, I think, priced very, very reasonably relative to everyone else.
Yes, I will be on her line for sure. But
so we had been talking about, or you had made prediction. One of your predictions, I can't remember if it was on air or off, was about the Jeremy Renner book tour. You said he had a biography coming out. You were expecting him to do a book tour. This is starting to become more of a norm, and it's not a great trend. Where because Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 is also doing this. I don't know if you saw, where they have a book tour where there's no signing or photo ops. They charge you tickets to sit for a Q&A, and then they give you a copy of the book when you're done or when you start.
Well, here's the deal. I know Blink-182, but I didn't even know there was a person named Mark Hoppus existing, so I that was not on my radar at all. But yeah, it's one of those concepts where the celebrity and the publishing companies, they've all seen that these book signings are successful. They sell tickets, they sell books. It's press for the whole release. It's a good thing. And then you're going to inevitably have people and companies that try to sort of take their foot off the gas. Let's see if we can get the same return with putting these types of events are a lot easier for the celebrity, for the company that's bringing them in. You're basically on stage, you're doing your little performance, and you hand people books at the end. Although Jeremy Renner is apparently doing something after, which is bizarre, that you go through some sort of a line and get your book personalized.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's a whole idea now of, do you want to go through that line and hope he's going to look up for photos? My instinct is he won't, because it would have just been easier to do it that way, to do it like this, to look up, and it would just be a lot more just time consuming. So
yeah,
I think it'll be personalization only, and you just fly.
And it's interesting, according to a very, very cursory Google search, Mark Hoppus and Jeremy Renner have the same net worth.
Interesting.
Yeah, which, I mean, I would say in terms of international recognition, I think Mark Hoppus is probably a bigger name than Jeremy Renner is. But it's just funny, once again, what's in our sphere and what's not. But I was never tempted to on Jeremy Renner. I think I told the story that years ago at the New York Comic Con, I actually when Marvel used to do free signings, free raffles at their table for signings, and I got a raffle. This was the year that they were previewing the first Avengers movie, and I won a raffle for a Jeremy Renner autograph, and I sold it for like $20 or something to someone else. I didn't want to wait in line to get an autograph from Jeremy.
But yeah,
Renner.
I was on record. I would have done Jeremy Renner, even on a Monday or Tuesday night. I would have bought a ticket and went in. But I have no interest. And honestly, as I hate that whole concept way people act with the, if we stop paying, these will change. And it's maybe, of course, the change could just be that the events and the appearances dry up. Doesn't mean they're going to go back to terms that we like. But people have to, if everyone fills up that theater and Jeremy Renner does the same business he would do if he was taking photos, you're not giving the publishing companies or the upcoming celebrities any incentive to do it the old-fashioned way of actually meeting you, giving you a photo op, and some sort of an experience. You are just saying that this is okay. So I hope that theater is half empty. and
It's
it's
just
just not
wild to me
successful.
because like a Cameron Diaz for her autobiography did photo ops no problem. Like, Cameron Diaz is an order of magnitude larger star than Jeremy Renner, and even this trend I don't like. I really don't like it
No,
at all. It's lousy. It's lousy. I understand why they do it. It's easier for them. They go out, they answer a couple of stupid questions. There's some idiot who's crying in the audience, and then they go home, and that's it. But yeah. So there's a little bit of controversy happening today as we speak. This Sunday, right now, this weekend, that with the fifth, the 4th, 5th, and 6th of April is Steel City Con in Monroeville. Did I get it right?
yep.
Monroeville, Pennsylvania, which is near Pittsburgh. They did a really strange guest announcement. What day was it announced? On Friday?
It was
Thursday?
announced, I believe, Friday.
So it was either Thursday or Friday when the public announcement was made. But they announced Kevin Spacey. He's appearing at the con today only, and he was announced during the con. So there was absolutely no way if you were wanted to go to this con specifically for Kevin Spacey to make those kinds of plans, or from the flip side, look, there are a lot of people who do not feel great about Kevin Spacey being booked. They articulated pretty clearly on social media they would not have purchased tickets to Steel City or they would not have attended if he was announced in advance. And so a lot of people feel that Steel City is being a little bit shady by making this announcement at the very last minute. Apparently there was a video announcement where comments were disabled, so people couldn't even reply. And he's going to be at the show today. I'm assuming he's there now, or just about to start now. And this announcement was made at the last second, so it couldn't be publicized. There are a few things about this that are interesting to me. But yeah, you chime in first, and I'll talk about what my issues are.
Okay. I think it's probably that as well. I think I would sort of echo that it seems a little strange otherwise. I think they just sort of wanted to have him there without dealing with all the whole can of worms. And I think I've sort of shown my heartless nature of just wanting like trophies in this hobby enough where you're not surprised that while I don't condone what he was accused of, much like I don't condone what Mel Gibson said, and I don't condone the craziness of Kanye every day. Like, if they bring these people out that I am even a small fan of, I'll be ready to meet them. I will meet any of these people, so I don't share the outrage. Like, I say bring Spacey to every convention, or at least a single convention that I am attending, so I can meet him. And yeah, I mean, if you want to keep teenage boys away from him, feel free. I'm about 2 decades past that, so I'm good. He's not doing nothing to me. And yeah, bring him on.
So there's a few things here. I think the first is, obviously a guest is booked so that the guest can make money and the con can make money. The con isn't making any money from Kevin Spacey's appearance, by definition. They didn't sell a single ticket to this con based on his name. How do we know that? Well, people bought the tickets before the con started, right? Maybe there'll be a handful of walk-ups. I can't imagine there are too many people who are like, oh, shoot, Kevin Spacey was just announced. I'm going to run out to Monroeville. It's just not a realistic thing. It's the fact that he was announced so soon, during the show. It's a very strange, just from a money making perspective. Doing it this way costs the show money. It also costs him money, because doing a one-day appearance that isn't announced in advance, you have a lot of people who've already allocated their funds who might have given him money who aren't. So on that sort of vein alone, from that perspective alone, I don't understand why the booking was done. They're not making the money they should be making on it. If he were announced, I think, in advance, yes, they would have dealt with people complaining and whatnot, but they would have made money on the appearance. Now they, by definition, can't make money on the appearance. So
they still get the heat. They still get the heat, but they don't get the perks. I think Spacey's of a magnitude where you would have sold some tickets. Like, I mean, a lot of the
Of course,
names
you would have
are
sold
at,
some tickets.
but there's
I
a
think
lot of the
absolutely.
names. There's a certain level of name where, like, they're not selling tickets off everyone. Like there's certain people that you were either going with or without them. But Spacey, I think, is a guy where there's probably, there's the full-sized collectors and people like that would have planned to go to get stuff done. And what this whole trend is showing me that I should have on hand, probably American Beauty would be the movie I'd go with. Right. I should have a Laserdisc or 11x17 just like on a shelf in the office.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
I have to like get something with con season fast approaching. I have to get my Spacey item now because this might be a thing that other cons do. Who knows?
It's very, very strange. And this is not at all like what happened with the Jeffrey Jones thing that we talked about previously, where it was announced in advance. The con, took the booking on the chin. They took the complaints on the chin, and then they dealt with it, right? This is not that. This is something just very, very, very deeply strange that I don't understand.
And maybe it's nothing to do with that. Maybe Spacey had some plans that fell through, and he spur of the moment's like, hey, I can come. And they figured, why not?
The con's official statement is that the contract was just signed and that he was announced when the contract was signed, which, I mean, that's one of those things that can be technically true while also being, not the whole story. Yeah. Right. And so I find that argument a little bit dubious, but whatever. But yeah, it's
would you meet Kevin?
Fascinating story.
Do you share my heartlessness with this topic? Would you be online to meet him?
There was a time when I absolutely would have been like American Beauty poster, right? Or like I wouldn't go Usual Suspects poster because it's just impossible to get the cast. But American Beauty poster I would have done. And but now I don't know. Maybe the photo op, I guess. I don't know. And then you post that photo up on Facebook and people like I don't even know how I would handle it, honestly. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. Listen, because I feel like it's someone who's
that's when you just block all the idiotic comments. It clears up your friends list. It's a good thing.
Yeah, but my friends list really let me put this. My friends list on Facebook is not as diverse in terms of the number of like vague acquaintances and strangers that you have. I don't have that, my list is a lot smaller. It just is. And so it would be nonsense to have to deal with, or maybe not. I couldn't even really say.
Listen, if you got to block your uncle, you do it. You can't back down from the combos.
But yeah. Speaking of Steel City, they've also announced their August names, their August lineup, or at least the first couple from their August lineup. So Hank Azaria is on there. So my
old buddy.
You're not getting even the impulse to get dragged out there.
No,
they're also doing the same Baldur's Gate voice actor reunion that New York Comic Con did this past year, that Rhode Island's doing in November. I think it's pretty wild of Steel City to announce their Rhode Island has announced these guests for November, and now Steel City announces them for August. It's a little bit of a turf warfare thing. It's kind of interesting.
I mean. That's a lot of highway, though, man. That's a big.
No, I get it. I get it. And I don't think there's a problem with it. But I imagine Steel City announcing in November probably annoyed some people Rhode Island announcing in November probably annoyed some people at Steel City. So it's kind of funny. John Cusack was also announced. Sybil Shepherd and Steve Downs, who's the Master Chief from Halo. So honestly, nothing that is setting the world on fire, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a little light on accused pedophiles. So I'm wondering if they're going to add some of those a little closer to the show. But listen, they're going to add a bunch of people. You know it. There's going to be at least 4 to 5 people that we're going to want, and we still probably won't go. The name that I'm the most afraid of is. I'm blanking on the name, which is probably a bad sign that I don't need the person. Who's the girl from Rosemary's Baby? Oh, Mia Farrow. They had her booked once, and then she canceled. That's the kind of name I could always see them getting, and that's the name I'm always afraid of. Because she's like in her 70s now. That would be the name.
And that's the kind of name that it's the only Steel City would get.
Yeah.
You know?
So actually, crap, she's 80. So yeah, that's always my fear. That is always every single time my fear. Like if they book Mia Farrow and you're not interested in going, which I don't think you really care about her one way or the other.
Certainly not enough to go. Like
that would be a situation where I'd probably start looking at like flights and see if there's any conceivable way to like fly in, fly out, and just do it. Which, yeah,
that's wild.
Rosemary's Baby. I watch it every year. It's my wife's favorite horror movie. So to have her would be very nice. And I know time is running out. But yeah, beyond her, I'm sure I would just wait for the next Rhode Island or NYCC and hope that they just copy them like they usually do.
So yeah, there was another big announcement made for the National, that big Chicago sports show.
Yes,
this one. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal with a big name in multiple ways. They've booked Giannis Antetokounmpo, and not just Giannis. They booked the whole family, all the other brothers, which they think there's 4 in total. Prices are big, but this is one of the, this guy is up there in current players with like LeBron and Durant. He's one of the faces of the league right now. A regular autograph is $5.25, premium $6.30, $9.45 for art or game used, $2.10 for an inscription. Here's where it gets a little weird. You have a photo op is $5.25, or a family photo op with the other 3 brothers is $5.25. So essentially, I don't see how the brothers are getting paid for these photo ops if there's the exact same price, whether they're in it or not. They're not worth very much in and of themselves, but I mean, you would think you'd at least make it $600 or something to sort of have a separation.
So I mean, it's a big name. I'm curious if that's the kind of name though that looking at Fanatics, I'm curious if they would try to put him on Fanatics also, or if this is a Chicago only type situation.
If he does Fanatics, 500's a lot, but I don't know. He's one of those players that as a basketball fan you kind of need. So I think I would do it.
And then the last piece of news this week is there was a really funny. It's funny. It's always funny when the con world crosses over with the real world, And there's a clip that made the rounds in traditional media. The New York Post posted it and stuff of a clip of Bill Murray getting mad and yelling at a fan in a movie theater because the fan was doing honestly he was doing a Dana special. Trying to put video mode on his phone to pretend that the celebrity consented to the photo op.
Listen, I'm not even gonna make a joke that I have to ask you later if you have to bleep. So I'm just gonna skip insert an appropriate joke here. But it was a move that I've done before. Greg witnessed me stepping on the Undertaker's foot once. That wasn't good. I also may or may not have tripped Morgan Freeman at one point in my life. He almost fell, but luckily he kept himself upright. That'll be a flashback report for another day. But I can't fully pass judgment. But I mean, I still will, because much like I was in those moments, it's just not normal, rational behavior. It's also, I think, just bad. You have to sort of know the person that you're chasing after. Like at that point, you're gonna sort of. It's like spraying a hose on a hornet's nest. Like you're not getting anything out of Bill Murray when you get him pissed off like that. So I mean, if it's to a point, you got to be up his ass to get near him to get another opportunity. Because apparently this guy got something. He wasn't happy with it, and he went back for more. And I mean,
it's just anything. Bill is known for being prickly, and already even on a good day. And if you
got something that sort of is valid by our terms, if he's looking in the camera and you got something, consider yourself lucky. Don't go all up on him trying to get another, because this is what you're going to get. You're going to be on the New York Post and other outlets going some degree of viral and having Bill Murray yell at you. And honestly, the funniest way possible. I mean, I'll step on your foot I actually want to use that in some altercation before the year is over. I
think he's saying that because the guy stepped on his foot.
Yeah, I guess he has the wherewithal to not end up on camera threatening him in a more, threatening way. He was
offering. I think he was offering reciprocity on the foot stepping. Yeah.
I think he did it. It was like elementary school, like playground level justice. Like you stepped on my foot, I'll step on yours.
And so that's it for news. I mean, a lot of news this week, honestly. We did have some reports come in from cons over the past few weeks. So my brother gave some information about 90s Con that had occurred last weekend. It's a pretty standard fare. There were really no new guests or anything particularly interesting. For me, the interesting thing was he was texting me saying, why are all of these guests selling their own authentication stickers at the table, specifically referring to David Arquette and Skeet. And that's interesting that now that I said we saw it once and now it's going to be a thing moving forward for almost we're going to see it just immediately proliferate, very similar to like charging for quotes, where it was always free. And then that one show they did it, and then boom, every show did it. So I think we're going to see like table side authentication with muddying the waters with these first party stickers. It's gonna add a wrinkle to the hobby that I understand. I get the hustle. It's not going to be good for us. It's not going to be good for collectors.
Yeah, I think honestly the question is more fundamentally asked by saying like, why wasn't this a thing sooner? Because it really makes perfect sense on a like carny level. Like, you see someone else making money by authenticating when you yourself could do just the same, since you are the source in this case. And why the hell not? Let me make the extra $10 instead of JSA or Monster Mania or any of the varying shades of gray of like reputable sources. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem: you have people like us, the listeners here. You guys are pretty hip to most of what's going on, so we know like Convention All Stars. I know who a Convention All Stars talent is because I've done privates with them. I'm aware of I do the cons they do. So to me, it makes sense. Cool. I know who Convention All Stars has. But if you go on eBay and you're just a regular person that does not know this hobby, and you see a Tom Atkins piece with a Convention All-Star sticker, how is that honestly any more reputable than Tom Atkins with a Hollywood Source Memorabilia.com sticker, which would be a made-up, which I hope it's made up in case, we get some angry email now from that company. But how do you know? Like it just sort of makes that you could start trusting or not trusting any of the stickers, or you start trusting any random sticker because you don't know why that sticker means something.
I mean, so as you go on eBay, and there are plenty of fake authentication stickers or authentication stickers from companies that are not reputable. It's even more. It's another interesting wrinkle, right? Because we didn't discuss this last week. And we didn't put on the thing for this week either. JSA has increased its show prices. So when you get something signed at a show and you bring it to the JSA table, they historically have had a rate of $10 per signature to authenticate those. So they call them show specials. Well, the price of show specials it's increased across the board to $12. Well, guess what Convention All-Stars is charging for their stickers? $10. So now, by raising the prices on JSA, and I understand why JSA raises their prices. JSA employs authenticators. JSA must maintain a database that they're promising will last forever. These are things that cost money. If they raise their prices, I understand everything's going up now. By undercutting them, what the Convention All-Star sticker or other stickers like it are doing is offering people a cheaper alternative, which they will take, because to the average consumer is not going to really understand the difference in value that JSA adds to an item, both dollar value, and also value in, generally being accepted in the marketplace. Now, we've already covered, obviously, the flaws in the show signer process and how people were putting through fakes at JSA. We talked about that already. Just from a pure economic standpoint, it's gonna really cause a lot of pressure in the marketplace in strange ways that we don't even know what it's gonna look like yet.
Yeah, here's what I want to know.
Yeah,
can we blame the JSA price increase on tariffs?
This was announced before. I know it was a joke, but because you had mentioned to me that you didn't even realize JSA had raised their prices.
No,
JSA had announced a while back that not only that they were raising their prices, but that they actually gave a date when it was effective whatever date it was. So that was something they did announce in advance. And
while on this topic, let's just talk about the in the wrestling world, and I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, maybe even off air. What's your take when you see various wrestling vendors out there that have like their own sticker on their product as like their authentication? Have you ever considered a marked out collectible sticker?
No, it's worth nothing. It's worth
I
nothing.
agree.
Because what makes these, see, and this is the truth. What makes JSA more valuable, or Beckett or PSA more valuable to me as an independent person, is that it does not require me to trust a given vendor, right? JSA and Beckett and PSA and ACOA, they crowdsource their in some way. They crowdsource their authenticity. They have exemplars. They have people who are, sometimes multiple people who are looking at autographs and looking at exemplars and making those decisions. And they don't have a direct financial interest in that process. Now, there are indirect financial pressures. Obviously, if any of these companies start failing too many, then they'll start losing business from high volume clients, right? That's something that's just true. But I would never do that, because all that would do is force people to put faith in me. Don't put faith in me. Put faith in the product. You know what I mean? And I actually really mean that. I really believe that. I know that, we sell our stuff unstickered, and in some way people are putting their faith in us. But the way I say it is, look at the product. The product should stand on its own two legs. And that's really true, though. When we did our episode on TPAs, the message of that episode was, buy the autograph, don't buy the sticker. And that's 90%, you got to follow it. Yeah.
90% of our prints are exclusive to us. So I mean, if you see my print, I don't care if I'm selling it. I don't care if the biggest forger in the world is signing it. If you see my print, unless somehow they've managed to with different things get the signature off and replicate the print, I don't think they're that skilled. If it's my print, it's real, because like the unsigned versions are not floating around out there without our watermark. So
and frankly, there's not even that many of them. Yeah.
And then we also, that's a wrap up 90s Con, which I think we're still on 90s Con.
Yeah.
Greg sent in a report. Greg 2600. He was gifted a badge, so he went to 90s Con on Sunday. He parked for free, and it took him more than an hour to get these actors. He went for Empire Records actors, and it took a while. And then the previous day, he apparently went to a chocolate convention, which I don't even know what that is. It's a convention with chocolate. And he went with his mom to meet the 3 old haggard Brady Bunch members, Greg, Bobby, and Cindy. He's very complimentary of the Bradys. He spent 3 hours online, and he's saying how that might be one of the longer lines they've ever had. And he credits the convention, obviously, with promoting the appearance, which I didn't even hear about. So I guess they didn't promote it that well. But yeah, the Bradys were doing, you put Brady Bunch actors and chocolate in the same convention center, and I guess that's big business.
So there are these things where they're not chocolate cons, it's like chocolate festivals. They have chocolate festivals, they have food and wine festivals that draw very...
Yeah, we did for Kurt.
Yeah, but those kinds of festivals, they draw locally very, very, very well. They typically don't draw outside their region because they really like lean heavily on local vendors. They promote these things in the audience for these things tends to skew older than the audience for the kinds of cons that we go to, and so they really promote them heavily on like radio and in traditional print media and like Penny Saver and magazine and stuff like that. So the mom set goes to these kinds of chocolate festivals, and they do these things, and they're it's a kind of their own little ecosystem that do very, very, very well. So it's not surprising to me that they did that. The Brady Bunch people are perfect guests for that kind of thing. To the 75-year-old women who go there, the Bradys are, the household
I say we take VSK to a chocolate con.
Yeah, we're likely to sell as much as we sold at Wrestle Bash, which was nothing. Let's see, what else did we get? We got a report. Oh, another interesting thing from 90s Con, by the way, on Friday, because Matthew Lillard was announced as being all days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They sold so much for him in pre-sales that on Friday he did pro ops his whole time at the con and never came to the autograph table.
I'll still never fully understand Matt Lillard being the scale of draw he is. Like, he's
I
awesome.
understand it.
Dream is awesome. Whatever. It's not my favorite franchise, but it's cool. Scooby-Doo. He's done different things, but I mean, come on. He's like on a level that no one else can touch. And
okay, so he checks a lot of boxes. You got Scream, which is a not only a massive franchise, but he also has like he's responsible for the twist. You know what I mean? So there's that extra, like that moment of his face is memorable that people they remember him for it. He has a very, very, very important role in Scooby-Doo. Obviously, Scooby-Doo was he was the one carrying Scooby-Doo on his back. Freddie Prinze was just kind of there. He was the one doing all of the physical comedy and stuff like that. Then you also have he also has the indie darling art movie, maybe the more, but the indie movie SLC Punk, which is a massive underground, like whatever, like one of those cult classics. There you go. That was the word I was searching for. It's very much a cult classic. That there are a lot of people who are very into SLC Punk for that. And then also, I'm losing myself. What was the teen comedy where he was the boyfriend? Where he left the girl.
The only comedy of his I can think of off the top of my head, which I didn't even know was him until just like recently, Without a Paddle.
That's not a teen comedy though. He was in She's All That. He was the like the boyfriend who left the girl. It might have been even an uncredited role, but it's very, very, very noteworthy for how ridiculous it was. Like, because he went off to try and be a professional performer. It was like it's a famous like moment in that movie that is very significant. So he has the teen comedy, he has the indie darling cult classic, he has the horror, and he has the mainstream comedy. It's very rare that you find someone with 4 credits like that check specific fandom boxes.
So you're saying that Matt Lillard was basically made in like a convention headliner like factory, and he's just
in a way, yes. And all of those fandoms really check. They really kind of tickle the fancy of the kind of people who go to cons. So
plus, I guess he has that personality where he gives these people the experience they want every single time.
He exudes kindness. That's the only way I can say. He exudes kindness. He radiates kindness. It's almost like I don't even care whether it's an act or not, because he's so skilled at it that everyone loves meeting Matt Lillard. He makes you feel like seen, for lack of a better word. He makes you feel seen. He's extraordinarily skilled at it. It's also, if you watch his interviews and stuff, he seems to be a very like thoughtful, sincere, genuine person. So maybe this is all legit. Maybe he just really is a nice person and people are drawn to him. That he's the type to get tons of repeat business at cons for that reason. People really they feel a bond with him, a connection with him. Now he's a very unique person who probably has made more money on the con circuit than he made in movies, because all his biggest roles were not highly paid. I think Scooby-Doo 2 is probably his highest paid movie.
Yeah. I guess you also jumped into Five Nights at Freddy's now, which, I mean, brings in the younger audience and the younger con goer. So, yeah, I see it now. I guess he really did just, he like, there's not, even the bigger names you could think of don't check all the eclectic boxes that he does.
Yeah. And then there's also the Steel City reports were coming in fast and furious already, even though the show is still going on as we speak.
We received one from Old School Mike of Marked Out fame.
Yeah. Old School WWWF, if we want to respect the gimmick, right?
Don't forget that third W.
Yeah, of course. It's he brought up in his report the part that is interesting. So Shannon Elizabeth, if you've ever been to a con with Shannon Elizabeth, she is a forced personalizer. That's what she does. And so now she's taken a book out of Corey Feldman's playbook, taken a page out of, not a book out of it. She took a page out of Corey Feldman's playbook to, she does forced playback. She does forced personalization But if you want her to not personalize something, she charges double. So it's if you agree to personalization, it's $80 an autograph. Otherwise, it's 160. I'm gonna be honest, 160 for Shannon Elizabeth is insane.
I'll be honest. I think 80 is kind of on the cusp of being a little high, but you would say whatever. It's the 2025. Let's do it. 160 is a little nutty. I think it's one of those situations where I would feel like she's probably in more of a Sergeant Slaughter realm, where she's got to be leaving more money on the table, because Mike walked. He was prepared to pay 80, and for the piece he had, he said 160 was too much, and he walked. Like, I feel like a lot of people are walking. I don't understand the logic. Maybe, they have their books. They know what they did before doing this pricing. They know what they do after. Maybe she makes the same and works less. Who knows? But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It does seem nutty. It does seem counterintuitive. And, I got the photo. I got the group American Pie photo op. I wish they would do a real American Pie reunion, and I would just get either a poster or, or a group photo or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pay 160. I don't. Maybe if I don't know. But she is I'm a huge American Pie fan. It's one of my favorite movies ever. And she's like a key role in that, obviously. What else happened at that show? Ron Howard did well,
and so did Henry Winkler. Both of them had steady streams of people all day long. Couldn't have been nicer. Ron was very talkative. It seemed like he was a little more quiet in Orlando. So I guess he's sort of getting he's getting his feel for this.
Maybe he took a gummy beforehand.
Maybe,
I don't know. He's probably getting his sea legs when it comes to cons. I imagine. Yeah. Look, we've worked on the other side of the table, not at a major con, but as helpers and stuff. And it is stressful to be on that other side of the table. So I understand why someone who's not used to dealing with. Ron Howard was an actor when he was a child. For most of his adult life, he's been behind the camera, and so he's probably not used to that level of public scrutiny. And sort of, I shouldn't say public scrutiny, of interacting with the public. Some people are.
And like we just said about Matt Lillard, that's like that's the benchmark. The gold standard is to be able to make these people feel seen and give them this moment. And that's a lot. I mean, you're playing your cheerleader, your therapist, your whatever. You're all these different things. You got to listen. You got to react.
Your middle school crush. You have to. I mean, that's got to be a lot of pressure that you're someone's middle school crush, and they walk up to you, and you have to like satisfy whatever fantasy they had about the traits that you don't even have, but they impose them on you in their own head. And
it's especially tough if you're not willing to do like bed photo ops like Sonny.
Yeah, but it's tough. There's no way. There's no way around it. Linda Blair seemed to do all right. She always does, but people I saw on Facebook, other people were commenting that she was. I saw this on. I meant to send you the link to it. There were some people who purposely bring up the animal charity so they get more time with her.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be very clear. That is deranged behavior. It's deranged. If you do this, there's something wrong with you. Have your head examined. Because if you're truly interested in animal rescue and you believe that in some way Linda Blair can offer some unique insight into this, fine. Under that very narrow instance, fine. Then you can, I guess that justifies talking to her. But if you don't give a crap about animals and you just want to like bring that up just so you could just frantically buy several more seconds in her presence, there's something wrong with you. Am I wrong?
No, it's weird. It's very.
I saw a woman posted it. She posted that she did that.
I did too.
She specifically brought up the charity just to buy herself more time, and I have absolutely no time for people like this. I find them to be psychotic, for lack of a better word. These people are psychotic. There's something wrong with them. They are a plague in the hobby. They are the worst. And you just know someone who does that is like annoying in other aspects of their life as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you also know, I guarantee if that woman that talked about the animals to get more time had a person in front of them with 10 items, whether they're a consignor or just a fan,
she would cry about it.
oh yeah, we gotta limit the items. So I could ask Linda Blair about, shaving a cat's stomach before surgery or something. Like it's ridiculous. What does that give you? If you're talking to her, if you love The Exorcist like I do, I couldn't care less about talking to her about it. But I acknowledge always that I'm weird and that a true fan probably should care more than I do. That's cool. You want to have a 5-minute conversation about your favorite scene. Awesome. I can understand the appeal. But if you're not some animal nut and to have this conversation with her about animals, it just makes no sense.
Yeah. So, also, it's my understanding that Ken had a guest in the Sportatorium this week.
That didn't happen yet. That's coming up. But he will be having Billy Gunn.
What? Oh, that's not Ken. I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong line.
Yeah, you
talk about Billy Gunn. Yeah, I jumped it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ken. I'll announce it. Ken's having Billy Gunn. Daddy Ass is coming to the Sportatorium.
That's exciting.
Yeah, Ken. He was telling me about this 2 months ago or something about this plan, and I'm telling you guys, if you're in the area, go check him out because Ken's going to be in there selling stuff. He's got, you can see the Sportatorium. You might even be able to take a piss in the legendary toilet of the Sportatorium, which still has crusted pee from Sid Justice.
I would have hoped that the bowl would have been cleaned since then.
I don't know if it's been cleaned before then. It's a dirty bowl. Ken does not listen. He is not. I imagine when the fish bowls are cleaner than the toilet bowl.
But when the public comes in, I'm sure he's going to give the place a once over. But no, that's right. The Ted Arcidi thing.
Joe Fuji will. Joe Fuji might get a toilet break.
The Ted Arcidi thing was not with Ken. That was with who was that with?
Jack and Joe Matthews. Joe Matthews brought him in. And Wrestling Universe now is running, what the hell is it called? The Red Parrot or something? It's some parrot in Queens. It's a restaurant. I will actually be out there next weekend. And Ted Arcidi was there. And Vin from Staten Island was also in the house. And he completed his WrestleMania 2 8x10, which looks awesome. It is colorful. It is loaded up. I know I've been seeing that with him for quite a while, so I'm happy for him that he got that done.
He's paying big bucks for the JSA letter. Big bucks.
Yeah. I think I actually needed Ted on my WrestleMania 2 program, but I just didn't feel like going. I ended up in Brooklyn anyway yesterday for a funeral. So that just wasn't really in the cards. But I think I need Ted on. Seeing his post, I realized I think I needed him on that WrestleMania 2 program. But
that's such an interesting booking for me because Ted Arcidi, he was there, right? He made WrestleMania 2, but he otherwise was not an impactful, had no impactful moments in his career. I can't imagine he has any fans, So I imagine the people who went to this signing are the people who like the Pokemon collectors, They have to get every single wrestler, basically.
Or someone like Vin that has a very, very precise. I don't think he's a Pokemon,
specific project. Yeah.
Yep.
But it's funny because there would have been a time, I think, if I'm being totally honest, in the not too distant past, where you would have compulsively had to attend this, and I probably would have wanted to attend it as well because I had to get everyone. And that time, thankfully for me anyway, is over. So, yeah. But it's a sick booking because it's someone who's just never around. If I'm being candid, I was watching wrestling at the time, and I knew that I had his LJN figure. I saw the photo op. The face didn't even ring a bell for me. It didn't resonate with me at all.
And then our last report is all the way from Chile. Chile. That was a bad one. That was not good. Sorry, Chileans.
We're gonna power through. I'm not editing it. Go ahead.
All right, Martin had a great time at a wrestling show, and he was able to meet Rhino and Brian Kendrick once again, and he also met Zack Sabre Jr. and Diamante for the first time. He met a few musicians as well, including members of The Offspring, Tool, and Jane's Addiction. I know Jane's Addiction.
Wait, you know Jane's Addiction, but you don't know Tool or The Offspring?
I mean, I've been told I was a Tool, but I've never heard anything from Tool that I'm aware of.
Tool is a massively, beyond what, underground stuff, Tool is a massively, massively successful band. So much so that Tool's related project, A Perfect Circle, which is, 20 years ago now, they really spun it off, was also a massively successful band. Tool is a massively successful band.
Not sure.
Maynard
The Offspring, I think, was a horror movie.
You've heard The Offspring, that song "Pretty Fly for a White Guy."
Oh, that's them.
Yes,
Okay.
I mean it was a massive mainstream hit
Well,
in the
listen.
'90s.
As usual, Martin is hitting Chile hard. There's
Yeah,
always something going on there, and he's in the right place at the right time. So
and
keep it
look,
going, Martin.
Zack Sabre Jr. is a good get. He'll be in he'll be in WWE at some point. I'm pretty
sure of it.
That's why we did signing with him.
Yeah, that's also why we're not pushing the stuff that hard, because
that's right.
Maximum value ain't right now, pal.
So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. And if you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, please reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. Also, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and you can leave us a rating or a review. You can leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a rating on Spotify, and you can leave thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment on YouTube. All engagement is helpful. So the main topic for today, even though we're over an hour in already, the main topic for today is the death of Val Kilmer. And so we both have interesting Val Kilmer commentary, I guess, related to Val Kilmer in this hobby. I mean, as an actor, Val Kilmer is an icon, but Val Kilmer was kind of, when he first started doing cons, I want to say maybe 08 or 09 was when he started. He was a huge name to do cons at that time. People of that caliber really weren't doing cons, and partly that was because his career had fallen off quite a bit, but he still was probably one of the bigger names to start doing mainstream cons. I remember the first con I saw him at was Big Apple Con. But that was when Big Apple Con was failing in New York City at that weird hotel in Midtown. But I don't remember the name of the hotel. The hotel might even exist anymore. And I remember he didn't have that much of a line, and I passed on Val Kilmer at the time because it was like $50 autograph, $50 photo, no combo. You were at that show, right?
I think that might be the show where I sat on a wooden table. I was waiting for Ice-T, who never showed up.
That's that show, yep.
Yeah, I sat on a wooden table. And the wooden table collapsed, and I fell onto the ground. And I was laughed at by commercial star Mason Reese. That is still probably the low point of my existence, to be laughed at by Mason Reese.
Another dead convention mainstay, Mason Reese.
He's dead?
You know what? I assumed he was dead. Maybe he's not.
After that asshole after me, I hope he's dead. Let's see. Hold on. Mason Reese.
He's alive.
Damn it. All right. One day I'll get my laugh, Mason.
It's weird because he used to do cons all the time. I haven't seen him in years. I assumed he was dead because he had oh my God, I feel like you now just thinking people are dead.
Listen, that was the ugliest child in the history of humanity, I think, but I digress.
Well, I will have you know he remained ugly into adulthood, so
he actually aged pretty well, considering.
Yeah. But I actually never got Kilmer because that show at Big Apple Con was probably when he looked his best. And then when I saw him,
you didn't do that whole tour he did with Mark Twain?
No, I didn't.
Jeez.
I didn't, because what ended up happening was then when he came around to Monster Mania, and I took a look at him and he looked bad. And so I had this whole weird thing. I didn't want to get a photo op because he looked whatever. I never got Val Kilmer. I never did.
Wow.
So you have a funny Val Kilmer story.
I do. I'm actually going to read an excerpt from my report back when it happened on Marked Out Forum. All right, so this was in New York City to set the stage. He had a movie that he was doing that was about, he was playing the ghost of Mark Twain, which honestly, if I remember it correctly, like the things we sit through for meet and greets and stuff, this was actually not one of the worst. I like enjoyed it on some weird level. I don't remember much
praise, but sure.
Yeah. Anyway, this was in Manhattan. They had one that I think was cheaper in Westchester, but I picked the Manhattan one because it's, a little more convenient. So Val came out 10 minutes late and began by introducing his movie. His speech was quite impaired, and he also had some breathing issues with noisy inhales, which were only magnified by the microphone. Val was in great spirits and obviously chose to do this, but I still felt bad for him. It isn't easy for anyone to deal with something like that, but it must be even more difficult on someone in the public eye expected to perform. Once Val hit the stage, he began making some jokes and explaining both the project and his speech condition. He then began asking the audience for questions, but then said, let's watch the movie. So I think he got a little sidetracked there, because, like, what questions would you have? In any case, he departed the stage. Lights go down. The movie went off. And as I said, it wasn't bad. Once the film was over, this is where the hijinks ensue.
Wait, so you stayed awake during the movie?
I did. I will typically not sleep through anything I paid for. Like, you have
a much tougher constitution than I do.
Listen, even prostate exams, if I'm paying for it, I will stay awake. I'm gonna get the experience. All right.
Well, all right. So where we came from.
Once the film was over, Val came back to the stage. The first question he received was from an overweight gentleman who had his phone clipped to his chest. Val immediately accused him of stealing the movie, asking, "Did you steal my movie by filming?" The guy was taken aback by the question, and he attempted to laugh it off, saying, "Of course not." But then Val sprung from the stage with cat-like agility and pulled out his own iPhone, saying, "I will film you now. Let's see how you like it." The audience at this point was laughing, but there was definite awkwardness in the laughter because it seemed like Val wasn't kidding. The man asked the question, Val stopped filming, and then grabs the man's phone and takes it on stage. He couldn't turn it on to check for the video, so he just flung it down to the man from the stage. At this point, I'm losing it. Val was obviously legit pissed, and it was hilarious. I'll be honest, I have no recollection of this actually happening beyond reading this report that I wrote, which is kind of scary for my own faculties. But that's wild.
I was hoping you would provide additional commentary here.
No, this is awesome. I'm like reading this for the first time. All right. Val begins taking more questions when all of a sudden he pauses and stares down on our own Ira Nobler. And he asks Ira on the live microphone why he appears so bored and if he was boring him. Ira was flustered. I mean, but Ira sort of flustered as a baseline, but he was extra flustered. And he said he wasn't bored. And Val demanded he ask a question. So Ira proceeded to ask him about research purposes and his research process for the movie.
Not going to lie, that's a pretty good off-the-cuff question. I wouldn't have come up with that.
Ira did a lot better than I would have. He slammed that one home. And Val was satisfied. Val gave him a good answer. And after that, photos were taken. They were taken on our camera. Ira's didn't turn out so hot. That was back in the theater had weird lighting. I think it was better than the Westchester one, but the lighting was kind of like typical stage lighting, which is not the same as photo op lighting.
Right.
If you guys didn't know,
they need to put the house lights on for that stuff.
Yeah, the house lights. Need the house lights. It looks cool from like the naked eye, but it doesn't work for a photo. My photo turned out good. Iris is a little blurry, but I mean, listen, it's better than your photo with him, which is non-existent.
Yeah.
So all in all, it was good. R.I.P. Val. Even though you kind of bullied a man with a phone, you terrorized Ira. I mean, you still did some great stuff, and this is a pretty entertaining report I just read that I wrote myself. So
what's funny to me is that it didn't occur to Val, and this shows you kind of the mind of a celebrity a little bit. It didn't occur to Val Kilmer that the guy mounted the phone on his chest so he could record himself asking a question to Val Kilmer and having it answered. That's obviously why the guy did that. And it's such an obvious thing that we wouldn't even, it's like the equivalent of wearing a GoPro for that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think GoPros probably didn't exist when this event happened, but what year was this?
Hold on. Around 2012, it appears.
I saw GoPro was very, very new, if it's still, that's pedantic detail. But the point is that, it's such an obvious thing that this guy was trying to like squeeze every moment out of this interaction with Val Kilmer. And as a celebrity, Val Kilmer had no idea that's what was happening. And it just escalated it to this insanely self-important level.
Yeah.
When it didn't.
And now this is that poor guy's memory of this. Like, he cared enough to want to record this interaction. And now that's the interaction he has. And honestly, I wish I knew who he was. I'd love to see like what his social media reaction was to Val's death.
It's really funny, honestly, and especially, I mean, even he really thinks that in 2012 on an iPhone, whatever it was, 4, or 5 that you're going to record a full length movie. It's just it's an asinine proposition, you know, the conclusion he jumped to is so like intuitively obviously wrong that it's funny that he jumped to that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like it like, you know, he's obviously not a complete dumbass, but on some level he is a complete dumbass for even thinking that was like humanly possible. So it's kind of like when it reminds me of like when you see these reports where, you know, certain celebrities won't sign in blue because they think the autograph can get transferred to another item if it's signed in blue. And like the shocking level of stupidity and like misunderstanding of how physics works that's required to believe that makes you automatically discredit the kind of person who believes it. But it's one of those things, it's a very domain specific thing where you can have someone who's like reasonably smart in most areas of life who, you know, manages to not understand how these basic things work, like a phone or a pen. You know, like,
and just to fact check myself, it was 2017, not 2012. So my correction. So the quality maybe the quality was good enough.
Well, it wouldn't have been an iPhone 5. 2017 would have been an iPhone, 11, 10. Still, I mean, you're not recording a whole movie like that. Who could watch it? It's terrible. Like the old fan cams back in the day. But the people who recorded those fan cams had a tripod. Whatever. It's a ridiculous conversation because it wasn't happening. That's not what was occurring. What was occurring was the guy was trying to record the There's a certain like perverse irony in recording the interaction because you value it and cherish it so much. And like Val Kilmer like stomps all over it and just totally ruins it in a way that makes it a negative interaction. Like it really is funny. I really actually, man in the audience, if you're out there, if you have this video still, post it somewhere. Maybe we should go trying to find it. Because 2017, it could have made its way to YouTube. That just strikes me as so funny. I just love it. I love it. I wish I was there. But that would have required me to go to the city, so probably not. I don't regret not going, but it's very, very funny. So just from a hobby perspective, my Val Kilmer story, I never met the guy, but back in 2019, I wanted to get my dad a Christmas present, and RICC legend Josh Clark had done a private signing with Val Kilmer, and a lot of his stuff had like quotes and inscriptions and really they were like premium items. It wasn't just junk 8x10s that he had. And I know that my dad's favorite movie is Tombstone, and Josh was selling a beautiful black and white 11x14 of Doc Holliday from Tombstone with the quote I'm your Huckleberry signed underneath it, big giant, big quote, big signature, a sick looking piece. And I wish now, telling you this, that I didn't tell you what I paid for it before we started the show when I was going over the notes, but I did, so it kind of ruins the surprise. But for the audience, take a second and guess in 2019 what I paid for an 11x14 signed by Val Kilmer with a quote. And then, so I'll tell you what I paid. And so I paid $75 plus shipping. So it was $83 for that. And today, if you were going to, first of all, even finding one with a quote is difficult, but people were selling much lower quality items for hundreds of dollars, $200-$300 for a baseline autograph. I think with a quote like that, you're probably talking on 11x14, you're probably looking at a $500 range type item in 2025. I mean, even honestly, before he died, it was probably $250-ish for something with a quote like that. So it just shows you how much the market changed since 2019. It wasn't that long ago. I believe the reason I bought it from him, I was looking for stuff for my dad, and it was like he was having like a sale on RICC, like a claim sale. And so at $75, I wish I had bought more, honestly. And the funny thing is, I am absolutely certain he made a handsome profit on that sale. A handsome profit on it. So it's just
RICC legend Josh Clark was making some waves this week because when Val died, he was active, as we've been on record many times as saying that we agree with. He was out on RICC moving his product, and move product did he ever.
Oh my god! I mean, to be fair, he had so much left that was so good, really
Yeah.
high quality stuff, all quotes and nice items and cowboy hats and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I mean, look, why would you intentionally devalue your stuff by waiting? I'll never understand why people believe that. Why I don't. But I don't think. And we spend a lot of time on this, so I don't want to like really, relitigate all this stuff. But why people believe I don't think people actually believe you ought to hold the stuff and devalue it. I think they're just broke bitches who want to cry about it, you know? But it's hilarious because there was a dude I saw on one of the autograph groups who was posting a Val Kilmer signed item for like $200 and people were mad about it. And I'm like, $200, just to be clear, the day he dies, $200 is below market value, significantly below market value. So the fact that people were crying about that really shows that it has nothing to do with the price. It has everything to do with the fact that they could never really afford the item at all, and they want to make someone who has it feel bad. It's a sick thing, honestly, for something that's a pure luxury like this, a pure compulsive thing.
Yeah, and let the record state, at least on my end, I'm sure that you feel the same way. When we're talking about what this print that you got your dad in 2019 cost then compared to what it costs now, I'm not, I don't think we're talking about that to make light of the greed or anything like that. Like, that's just the ebbs and the flows of the market. And like what it's valued at right now with an inscription like that, it absolutely should be. Like, that is a premium item of someone who is dead. Someone who was definitely iconic for a time period. I think, honestly, he's one of those guys that death is going to sort of shine just a eternal light on him in a way that life wasn't. Like, I think people sort of took him for granted. And now that he's dead, people are finally able to sort of look at and say, well, damn, he actually had a damn good run.
He had a great career, a lot of standout roles that are legendary roles. I mean, his Doc Holliday in Tombstone made the movie. It made that movie. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
And here's my dilemma here. Val's the kind of guy that, much like Billy Graham of WWF fame, that I knew he was sick, but like I always thought, he's never gonna die. Like, there's gonna be at least another couple of years before you can, get something. And I never got anything. So now I'm watching the market. There's a couple things I'm eyeing that are actually priced with stickers around the same price it probably would have been before he died. The market hasn't gone completely crazy for just like basic signature stuff. So
to be fair, he was doing a lot of signings, either public or private.
I might pull the trigger on something this week. So I may have another moderate big boy purchase for next week. We'll see how my week unfolds.
You're going nuts.
I am.
So what's coming up for us? So we already talked about last week being locked in for Fan Expo Philly. So now we got to actually buy our tickets and figure all that out. I got my meet and greet with the Used on April 21st. We talked about that already. I can't remember what is that second bullet?
Today there is a chance, and I would have told you before, I would have told you a few days ago there was a better than a chance. Today, this weekend in New Jersey, there is the GTS Sports Show, and several Mets are appearing, or at least are supposed to be appearing. You have Francisco Alvarez, you have Edwin Diaz, and you have Mark Vientos. And Francisco Alvarez has an injury, so I've been sort of watching the website for a while now, seeing if they were going to cancel him or anything. And they haven't. But as of a few days ago, they sort of pulled tickets off the website from sale, which they don't usually do. These things don't really sell out. So the fact that they pulled tickets is not a great sign that he's still going to come. And this show is kind of evasive as far as giving a concrete answer. There's people commenting and asking, and they're not really answering. And the other two, I would imagine, would be a little more likely. But there's a 1:40 game today, so they have to end the game. The game will end by 4-something in Queens. They got to get to Jersey by 5:30. And honestly, the whole thing, especially with the biggest one or one of the biggest ones being on the bubble that he might not even be there, it's making me a little apprehensive. So I think there's a decent chance I stay my ass home today and do nothing. But
I was making the drive to Jersey. That's an easy pass, but that's that one. There's also something funny. We're not going to talk a lot about it, except to say that you know, there are a lot of people who, when we launched the WWE ID project, I guess we can break down responses into three categories. There were the people who were like, "This is stupid. You're never going to make any money. It's a waste." There were the people who were like, "This is a brilliant idea. Like, I wish I thought of it." And then there were the people who were like, "Can you cut us in and let us buy from you at a discount?" Those are the three responses.
Yeah.
And so what we noticed, what's starting to happen is some of the people who were going for option C have started doing bookings and doing their own signings with some of these talents and doing it way worse than we did and that we are and have way worse prints than we do. So I mean, is there anything else to say about it? How do you feel about, like, you had a different take? I was pissed, honestly, that I have no right to be pissed. It's not like we didn't invent cold fusion or something, so I had no right to be pissed. But sometimes our feelings are not rational. So
Yeah.
but you put me in perspective, so I just share that perspective because you were the more enlightened one.
Well, first of all, let me just break down your options before I get into my exact feelings on it. I'm one of the people, like, in a world where you have all the vendors out there that want to make you think they're making money and they did great and they made $500 and they want everyone to think they're profiting. I'm more of the option A. Like, I genuinely hope every single person out there just assumes like, when we have an idea and we're doing something, please assume we're losing money on every deal. Like, yes, terrible deals, we're losing thousands. Like, I have no desire for people to know or think how
and to be fair, you're right, because, like, think of the number of people who were like who actually said to you the Olivia Hussey deal is stupid, you're gonna lose money on it.
Yeah.
Because all those people said that, no one else jumped in, and we made significant money on it.
Now that she's dead, I'll talk about how much money, I'm happy to talk about how much money we made, but, like, when something's alive that, like, I feel like we kind of have the market going well, like, yes, option A all day long. It's a terrible idea. We're losing tons of money. Don't do it. Anyway, as for how I feel about it, I think if it wasn't a good idea, like, no one would ever do it. Like, that's just the nature of the game. Like, every single person is sort of, they're copying something. And if the fact that someone else is doing what we did is, somewhat proof that we're onto something good, because people aren't actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of vendors out there copying other vendors' bad ideas. That's actually largely what goes on in the world.
Yeah, that's it.
But, for the more savvy vendor that copies a good idea, I mean, there you go.
Yeah. There is a little validation, I guess, to be derived from it, but still, it's honestly, annoying, I think, when someone does a Temu version of what you're doing. Let's be clear.
But listen, the bad prints make the good prints look even better, so keep them coming.
Again, you're taking a more enlightened view of it. For me, it's aggravating. I shouldn't be aggravated. I should just ignore it. But I sometimes you have irrational feelings, and I know you're right. I know it's something that should provide validation, and I know that having a bunch of ugly prints on the market will just make the nice prints, stand out more, but still it's annoying. So that's all I have to say about that. So again, if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. So we actually finally do have another private signing to announce, and I'll let you do it.
Okay. PWJ Damaged Goods Part 2 on July 27th in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. We will be there, and not only will we be there, but Zeta Steel will be there. Her match was announced yesterday. She will be facing Penelope Ford, and we will have Part 2, Round 2 with Zeta Steel. Round 1, as I said, I'm an option A guy all day long, so we lost so many thousands on her the first time around. We figured, let's lose a few more thousands, since it was a terrible idea. So we're doing it again. We're going to have new prints. We've remixed the ID promo. Our ID promos were very popular. We have sold out.
We're gonna have a series 2 because the series 1 sold out.
And I got to give you all the credit, because you had the idea of doing the hand-numbered metallic versions. I was not thinking like that. and it was genius. And we sold Zetas out, I think, by a week after the signing.
It was less than a week. It was less than a week after we did this. We sold.
So we're gonna have a remix part 2 redesign, a whole new design. So the people that got the black bordered 1 of 5, 2 of 5, whatever, there will never be more of those. That design is retired, but we have a new design. And if you want one of her hand numbered ones, you don't wait. For some of the other guys, we still have a few left over. Maybe you could wait we have like one left on some of them. But Zeta has already shown that her fans want the hand numbered stuff. So that
she's blowing up. She's blowing up on Evolve. She's blowing up. She's popular. You can see she's getting over. Look at her Twitter engagement. She's popular. Yeah. So I'm excited to do this again. Zeta's super nice. She's very quirky in a fun way, not in an annoying way, in a fun way to work with. So I'm excited for that to happen again.
Yeah.
And of course we're
not rolling yet, but I wanted we wanted you guys to hear it first on the podcast. I will try to launch them this week. No promises, but I think this week would be realistic that I could get everything going.
We have time. It's not until July, so maybe we'll chat about what. Did you didn't order anything yet? No, of course not. We didn't do that. Did you start designing yet or no?
I've started a little bit. We actually did order a few. We have the metallic promos on hand.
Oh, that's right. Because there was the coupon. That's right.
Yeah. We have them. So.
All right, cool. I love how that last 5 minutes, no one besides us will care about what that was, but that's okay. Our internal marked out collectibles logistics discussion about what prints we ordered or not. Let me tell you, it's a funny thing figuring out which prints to order, when to order them, how many to order, what vendor to use for prints. That's a whole thing that we have been working out over time, and who the hell knows about this or cares about it? No, for ordering large quantities of stuff, you can't just go to Staples. You can't just go to Walgreens. There's a whole process to this.
And just to put the finishing touches on the ID, can we just talk about Swipe Right? Swipe Right invaded NXT proper. They confronted the tag team champions, and I think honestly they looked and sounded like $1 million on that big stage. And they also showed up at WWE LFG, and honestly, those pictures look sick with them in that like actual like polished looking WWE arena with the backdrop like that. I actually wish that we had these prints to run when we had them out. But
we tethered our cart to Swipe Right. It was the right move. It's obvious that they are going to be breakout stars from this Evolve show. You can already see they're being booked on NXT. They're being booked on LFG. They are getting the initial rub from the show already. They're WWE.com, the WWE main Twitter account tweeted out the clip of Swipe Right on NXT, which is kind of big for the main Twitter account to tweet it out. Not like the NXT Twitter or the ID Twitter, the main Twitter. And it got a ton of engagement. A few hours after it was posted, it had almost 100 comments, and lots of people hate Swipe Right, so it's great.
Yeah, they're annoying. They're douchey frat guys. They hate them, which is exactly what they want.
So it's good stuff. It was so happy we were able to get that deal worked out. We still have Swipe Right stuff left, quite a bit of it. So check it out on marked.collectibles.com. So that's it for this week. I think we'll have an interesting story next week about an authentication issue that I had.
And also I think for next week, we obviously did not hand in our homework assignment this week.
We didn't. I know. I meant to ask you about it. We didn't.
Yeah, I want to explain why. We've had a little flurry of ads, and something tells me this upcoming week we'll have a few more ads. So are
we giving ourselves an extension?
Yeah, I think we're teachers. We're allowed to do that, right?
We requested and received the extension, so we are we're gonna do our breakdown of spending for Fanatics. Fear not, it's still on the agenda. It just when we saw the ads were coming in, we're like, probably not the best thing to do yet. We should hold off.
Yep.
So for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we'll see you next week.